Hello, my name is Chris Borowski. I survived depression and suicidal ideation.
The Spiriway team. He is one of the Spiriway partners and one of the coaches on our app. So, welcome, Chris. Thank you for being here. What is your background as far as like what you've done? Like, where have you certified in? What have you done as far as like what's going on? Where's Chris in the metaphysical space right now? What are you doing?
Geez, I've been somebody who's um, went on a journey of pursuit of happiness, which led to a healing journey. Noticing that happiness depended on happenings. That wasn't. It started off as the path, but led me to a healing journey, which gosh, I've dabbled in so many things. I've gone through many shamanic plant medicine journeys. I've been studying shamanism, alchemy, somatic work, breath work, inner child work. So basically, if there's been something I could try, I've tried it. And
Yeah.
if I tried something and I enjoyed it, I kept going deep into it. So basically, for gosh, 9 years, I've been just going deep into all kinds of different things that have supported me in my growth and my healing, excuse me, my healing journey, but then also allowed me to support and help others.
That's awesome, Chris. So, just a heads up, Chris is a Peruvian trained shaman. So, he doesn't like to say that, but he is. And so that's why he's part of our Spiriway podcast. He's the shaman. He does a lot of the type of things that shamans would do in that particular space for Peru, with the plant medicine and all that kind of stuff. And that's why he's one of our partners, because he's an awesome dude who we have worked together quite a bit and helped each other. So like and subscribe, please. That way we can bring you more of these podcasts, because we're going to bring you a lot of people's awakening journeys, not just people from Spiriway, but we want to introduce you guys to these people because they're awesome, and we know that they can help you with your journey. And they're on the app. They're already making posts. So come on down, just download it. It's right here in the bottom down here. There's a little QR code. Just hit that, scan it, and you can get right to the app. So, Chris, the reason we're here,
Well, first
awakening
off,
journeys. Go ahead. Yeah.
before that though, like I definitely don't feel comfortable being called a shaman. It's been on a shamanic path. Typically indigenous folks will be training for 8+ years. They're in it from age 8 till whenever, till they graduate. And it's definitely a part of a path that I'm on.
So, Chris, the reason we're here,
Yeah.
Spiriway, we're into awakenings. That's what we help people with. Let's tell. What's your story? How did this all come about? Where did you start? What caused it? What was your like point? Was it like Jeddah, where you just kind of it was just a ramp up, and then that's what happened, or was it like one of those like what mine, where it's an aha moment? How was it for you?
Um, I'd say like I was very much in my head and out of my body most of my life. And as I mentioned prior, I was very down, as low as I could be. And I just started slowly moving my way out. And that did lead me to Peru, um, and went to the Amazon and had some ayahuasca. And for the first time, I really felt connected to my heart. I felt deeply connected to this earth, to spirit, and to source for the first time. Just kind of blew my mind in a good way. And from that moment, it just opened up so much more. Many people, my close friends, were like, "Oh my gosh, like you came back a different person, like energetically." Um, and that just opened up the whole path for me of spirituality, awakening, connection to source, connection to my parts of my purpose. And it was very, very deep and very, very profound.
That's awesome. There's a lot of people that have had that happen, where they go on to one of these ayahuasca retreats, and they or come back, they're just a new person. You know. And how do you support those people that are coming back, that are new to that just got into the spiritual awakening, that just had their awakening experience with ayahuasca? How would you support them? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I'd say that there's immediate shifts energetically, and there's also um, just shifts in how you show up in the world. Um, but doing a psychedelic is not like I do a night or a few, and then all of a sudden everything's different. Um, you come back to the same world that you left, oftentimes the same job, the same relationships, the same everything, and you've shifted. And so the integration is where a lot of people could use some support. When I first went down there wasn't any real talk about it that much back in 2017. It was just like you have a talk at the end of the retreat and okay, see you later. Uh, and there's a lot to it. Like things get really shaken up. Maybe there's something that you faced where it's like, oh, that's no longer true. And then there's a way of how do I wrap my brain around this? That gets shaken up. How do I drop down into my body more? How do I embody what I was taught? So if I feel all that love of source running through me, how do I little by little step more into that? So for me, a lot of times when people have these big experiences, they're shaken up in the brain. So it's like, how can I help? It's not how can I help people drop from their brain into their heart, be aware of what is shaken up, help people get to the root of where this thing is that's causing maybe a little bit of turbulence in their integration. And just by doing that, being held, supported, and there might be some inner child work or some trauma work or some things that have come up that could be supportive to go through and to clear.
No, yeah, you and I have done our fair share of inner child work even together. So that's always fun. The inner child work, for those that don't know, is the little kid who you grew up with. They had all these traumas. More than likely, if you're here listening to this, they probably had traumas, and that doesn't go away. It sticks. And so, as an adult, you have to reparent that child. And Chris and I are really good about doing that and helping others to do that. So, if you have that issue and you want some help, contact Chris or I. And you can find us in the app, or we have our socials. You can find us there, especially in the Spiriway app. So, Chris, on the inner child work,
Yeah.
what was the most profound thing that you figured out with your inner child work that might help somebody else that is just starting?
I would say that um, patience and compassion
Oh
are
yeah.
really helpful because odds are you're not going to do one session with your inner child and that's it. Like
No.
for me, most of my stuff was at birth. So by the time I was touching it, I was in my 30s,
Yeah.
and sometimes into my 40s, and there's a lot of time there
A
where
little bit.
these
Yeah.
things kept playing out. And so I would say like know that it might not get wrapped up right away, but be open to it. Don't let me put any limitations on you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's that, and then there's also like just learning how to sit with that part of you. What
That
did
is
they need,
important. Yeah.
right? What was missing, and how can me as an adult in my wholeness, in my fullness, sit with that part of me that felt like something was lacking, and very much most cases it was lacking,
Mm-hmm.
where I can bring that to myself, to that part of me. And then we can then work on clearing things across all those timelines and all that time and, clear the energy, excuse me. And, you know, things start getting easier
Right. That is
from
for
there.
sure. Yeah, because I remember doing the inner child work. If you're not crying when you first start, you're probably
Well, for some people, I had a hard time crying. So,
well, that's part of the inner child work, though, because you were taught
yeah,
not to cry. So it's like
yeah,
once you start crying, you know you're starting to make some progress,
exactly. Yeah,
right? So crying is good in inner child work, and you always
it
tell
is.
everybody it's like it's good that you're supposed to cry. So that's
I
awesome,
mean,
Chris.
yeah, I've gotten to the point where, yeah, anytime I cry, it's great.
Yeah, because
It's
you're
very
releasing
welcome.
something. So there's something that need to be gone that you're releasing. You're like, okay, that's is great. Let me cry it all out. And if you're around anybody, like, what's going on with this person? Just leave me alone. I'll be okay. This
It's
is
not
about
always
me.
bad.
Yeah,
Tears of joy are wonderful too.
right. Exactly. So, question for you, Chris. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that are we want to come to the app that are starting to experience they've been through the awakening a little bit, and now they're starting to come into their gifts, right? Like either they're like, oh well, I hear things or I feel things. What advice do you have for them to start to practice some of those intuitive gifts on a deeper level?
Yeah. Well, there's a phrase that always goes through my head: trust, 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 faith, faith, faith. So have trust and faith in yourself.
Hmm.
And for me, it was like I really started connecting to my higher self, knowing that there's this part of me, the part of my soul that just knows things. And the more I can surrender and get out of the way, the clearer these things are able to play out. And that's kind of what I learned over the years, is how to just get out of the way and allow it to play out. And sometimes it's talking with someone like us who to get some validation. Like I'll admit that early on, there are people that were in their gifts and were validating through that. So if there isn't somebody in your life that understands this stuff, which sometimes there isn't,
Yeah.
but once it starts happening, you start attracting these people, whether it's through this app, whether it's you might just bump into somebody at a coffee shop or somewhere. And before you know it, there's something that will give you a mirror back of a validation. And now whenever I walk around, there's mirrors. Everybody's a mirror. Everything's a mirror, um, and an opportunity to trust more and have more faith.
No, I get that. I know when I first started, I asked that question to a friend of mine where we met her in a group, and I was asking her, "What's the difference between intuition and imagination?" She's like, "What is the difference?" And in other words, alluding to there's no difference. You're just spirit in a body. Everything that you imagine is possible. So I was like, "Oh my god!" It blew my mind when she said that, but my advice would be practice. Find the group, and learn how you read is my first thing I teach people, because there's a lot of people like, oh, I want to be clairvoyant or I want to be clairaudient, and maybe that's not your strongest gift at first. You can pursue
Yeah,
those for sure, but when you first start reading, is definitely figure out what's the best that you have at first. What's your natural gift? You may be precluded to clairsentience, where you just feel things. You don't know how you feel it. You just like there's somebody standing beside you, where like I feel something with you. You never know. And that's my advice on that. Speaking
yeah,
of that,
I
oh, go
do
ahead.
agree with that. I feel like for me, like I didn't see a lot at first,
Hmm.
and I was like really wanted to see. There's people that I knew that had blazing visuals, and you know, those were only for me when I ingested plants.
Right.
But I could really feel and know, right? And I
Hmm.
could hear. And so the more I allowed those to cultivate and to trust and to learn how to navigate those, the sight came on more as well over time, but it wasn't something that I could force, or necessarily train. It just kind of came in as I evolved. So I agree with that. It's like just have patience and show up, and eventually it all comes together.
We have some exercises on the Spiriway app that will help you. They are very fun. They're entertaining. Everybody that has used them has loved them, and they're there for you whenever you're ready. There's free. There's no. All you have to do is sign up and create an account, and you are good to go. And you can access those after you take the Spirit level test, which takes about 2 minutes. It's about 10 questions, and it'll help you judge where you're at, and it helps us figure out where you need to be as far as like what content we serve you. That way you are not getting bombarded, because there's a lot of times, especially when you're new to this, there's a lot of spiritual overwhelm and a lot of content overwhelm. And so, Chris, how do you navigate that for someone new that are just like, oh, they just opened up, they're starting to like use their abilities, but everything is everywhere, and there's so many things to kind of understand and know. What advice would you give them?
I think over time I realized um, it was an unlearning of things that allowed these things to shine.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so as I was, so I think some of the unlearning was just allowing these to be a thing, and that it's okay
Right.
that they're there and we all have these abilities,
Hmm.
and we're all tuned in. We all have the ability to have what, like you said, either hearing, feeling, seeing, whatever, knowing. Um, can you repeat the question though?
Sure. Well, what I mean is like there is law of attraction. There is all these things, all these topics you could learn as soon as you really get to the meat of it. And how do they filter out what's best for them? Is my question.
Mm,
Because some people might be precluded to tarot, or they might be precluded to going to doing intuitive work or mediumship, or they like to want to channel. There's all kinds of things. There's crystals, there's runes, there's so many things out there. How do they pick what's best for them?
good question. I think there's multiple layers to that. I think there's sometimes, what were you drawn to as a child? Was there something you were drawn to? Because when you're young and pure, like there's none of the ego, you know, between you and spirit. So
Right.
sometimes there's that, where somebody was drawn to crystals as a young child, and then they know as an adult maybe try and pick that up. For me, I just always like there was like a feeling for me as a feeler. This is my main gift is I just would feel like drawn to something. I didn't know why, and I would could be a crystal, it could be a person that's doing tarot, it could have been, for me, I got pulled to Peru at the right time, and just there was just something in me that was just pushing me gently towards things, and there was no thinking about it, there was no trying to do anything. It was just like I just have this feeling that I need to do this, or I need to go talk to that person, or I need to join this breathwork circle or this meditation group or whatever it was. I just was guided.
That's awesome, and that's a good way to look at it too. Where it's like, oh, I just feel pulled to this. You're just like, I just get to do it. You kind of just. I know this is a lot of theme in the spiritual circles, but you just know. You just know. It's like, oh, I feel like I need to do this, and that's awesome. I think that's the way I do it too. It's like, oh, I need this or I don't. I'll know. And for
Yeah,
the people that are new, that it might be tough to understand at first. You're like, oh, I feel like I need this, but I don't know if it's just try it and see what happens. That's the whole thing about this is experimenting.
yeah,
Again, you never know it's going to work until you do it.
yeah.
You
I mean, and you can pick up a crystal and be like, "That's not for me,"
know.
but there's only a minute of your life.
Right. I've got friends who have huge amounts of crystals, and I just have like two because they were given to me. I'm like, okay, great. Like this is awesome. I love it, but thank you for the
Yeah,
gift. But it doesn't resonate with me. So no, I definitely understand that whole thing. Like tarot, I've never done it. Well, I've picked it up by osmosis, but over the years, that's not been my thing either. Um,
yeah. I found it helpful. I have decks and I pull cards from time to time. If I'm like really like, okay, how can I? I think tarot is a really good. There's decks that are whatever someone's guided to that can really pull a card, and like I think it helps with like I said earlier with um like validating. You pull
mhm.
it sometimes when you pull a card and it's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm going through, you know,
Yeah.
or you go, what's this full moon about? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm feeling that, and I think that these types of things have helped me over the years to like really trust
Hmm.
my guidance or trust what I'm going through, knowing that, okay, I'm going through something. It's an eclipse season. Okay, that makes sense. Everybody is probably.
Right.
And so like there's these things that are like really helpful to like understand what is happening, and then building that trust. And now I don't really use the tarot anymore because I feel really connected to my guidance and my higher self and my guides, and but that took me years to get to that point. And so then sometimes I'm with friends and I'm just like, let's pull some cards, let's see what happens.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think there's all kinds of tools and things that we can try that give us, that trust.
I completely understand. I always say that there's always the base thing that you always learn. Like me, it was intuitive work. That was my base. Some people have tarot, some people have crystals or runes. And whenever you start to differentiate from that, sometimes you get a little lost. And so I always tell people when that happens, go back to your base. Like if you're starting to get a little lost, go back to the thing you started with and reestablish that again. And that usually helps a lot of people. To people, how can you help them with your own practice? What do you do for them? How do you help them?
Yeah, I have right now 30 and 60-minute sessions. So a 30-minute session might be kind of like an integration help or grounding in, rooting in, bringing some clarity to what's happening, just kind of, could be sometimes a guided meditation or just some kind of energetic clearing to help ground someone in, for whatever they have coming up. And it's
Mm-hmm.
something they could listen to over and over again over a period of time to kind of, it's really tailored to what somebody's going through at that moment in time. In more of a 60-minute session, it's more of a deep dive. Um, I'm really good at connecting with somebody, seeing what's alive for them, and I can just feel and sense where energy is stuck, where there's some distortions that are getting in the way of what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really good at getting to the root of the distortions in the field and helping to cleanse and clear it. So it could be empowering somebody to remove fear and bring in maybe more joy or love or whatever they're looking for. Sometimes it's a shamanic journey of going off on a journey with a guide or spirit or plant guide or something like that to, sometimes that helps people with their trusting their gifts, where there's a realizing of what is available for them through one of these journeys. um, every session I've had has been different, and it's really about, what is available for this person. So I've mentioned earlier that I feel connected to my higher self. When I'm connecting to somebody, your higher self knows what you're ready for
Mm-hmm.
and knows everything about you. I don't have to think about it. I just have to show up, hold space, and I think of myself more as a guide, a consciousness guide and energy healer. Um, and so, yeah, it's about kind of rooting in, kind of reclaiming sovereignty, getting in your power. Um, and, over the years that I've been supporting others, I've actually held space mostly for women. And I've held space for a lot of sexual assault and woundings that are unfortunately all too prevalent in society. And so bringing the healthy divine masculine in to support maybe where there were some masculine woundings, but sometimes the woundings were from other females as well. So um, yeah, so yeah, it's kind of what it's been like. But yeah, the beautiful thing is like every session's different,
Right.
and it's totally about what somebody's ready for. And yeah,
So,
those are the main ones. There's other items. I'm finishing up my website where people could work with me like longer term,
mm-hmm.
for multiple months, and they could also hire me to come support in an event or a retreat as well. So there's all kinds of different ways to work with me, but I primarily do things online.
Right. Yeah. I understand. And that makes your worldwide. You can go anywhere and connect over whatever platform they want to connect over. And that's very helpful for them. And so Chris's website and all of his details will be in the description down at the bottom. We're going to put that there. Like and subscribe because it helps us out. All right, Chris. So, question for you. You talked about plant medicine and how you did that. Now, would you think plant medicine is for everyone? Or would you what would your advice would you have for that be?
I would definitely say it's not for everybody. Uh, I believe there's people that are called to it for one reason or another. Some are called to serve and to be the ones who learn how to hold space in those arenas and to be of service in that way. Some people are called because it helps them. It's of support to them, maybe to open up their gifts or to move through some deep trauma. Um, but it can be really shake up your brain and your world. And I don't think that everybody. Number one, it's not safe for everybody. There are certain medicines that don't work, like medications from pharmaceuticals, I should say, that
Right.
don't work well with certain plant medicines. So we always, if you're feeling the call, always making sure that it's going to be safe. And any reputable place that you go to would say, hey, don't, if you're doing any of these, you need to talk to us first. So first off, we need to make sure it's safe. Number one. Number two, um, are you really being called to it? Some people go just to have an experience, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. I'm a firm believer that we have free will. We can do what feels right for us, as long as we're not impacting other people's free will. Um, so definitely making sure that there's an intention, though. Like you can go there without an intention and have an experience, but like really, what is the why? Like, why are you looking to do ayahuasca or mushrooms or whatever? Like, what is the reason that you're showing up? And it's really important to have that, in my opinion. Have a firm understanding. It could be vague, like help me to understand my purpose. Help me. It doesn't have to be like really ironed in, but having a reason for sitting there and
Mm-hmm.
having a reverence for the plant, um, and for the facilitators, and for the land that is holding you through that experience. And then also doing your research. If there's somebody you trust that has had good experiences somewhere, that's typically a good place to start. Do your research, see what feels right. Not all places are created equal, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of just figuring that out as well is important. And I would always suggest giving yourself a little bit of time after a retreat just to land your body, land your, you know. So if you're off to Peru, if you can stay a few extra days and just kind of land your universe a little bit instead of going to a crazy airport and getting right back into life. So if it's available, it's not always available for us in today's world. Um, but that from my experience, it makes it easier to land, because usually you go there and you're doing multiple ceremonies.
Oh, so it's not
And
just one; it's multiple.
usually, if you go to a retreat, it's 3 to 5 or in a week. So
Because I think
depending on
that
where you go.
I think that's most people's expectation, where they go in and they do one, and then suddenly that's it. But you're saying that there's multiples. That's awesome to know. That's great information. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, so there are. When I first started my journey, like after my first week, many people come back and go, "Everybody needs to do this," because it just gave me so much. And I was telling everybody I ran across, you should try this, you should do this. And over time, I realized no, you know, like very few people that I know, only a couple that I know that I knew prior to going to Peru have actually done it. And it's not about trying to convert and get everybody to do something. It's, for me, I just been living my truth, and just been like, wow, people see the change, but it's probably not for them. It might not be, and that's fine. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's so true, because there's one thing you learn when you first start is you want everybody to do this. Everybody needs to come do this. This is so awesome. I feel so great. I'm flying. And then quickly you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is my journey. And
Yeah.
and there's one thing you really have to learn to let people do their own thing. That's the hardest part because everybody wants to like, oh, I want you to like experience this like I did, but you can't very well say that everybody's going to experience it the same way. So, what
Yeah.
advice do you have for those people that are trying to let go of trying to help everybody? Because that's really the
Yeah.
first thing that you really want to do. You want to help everybody, but you got to learn you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. That was definitely a pattern in my life of trying to, you know, trying to help everybody around me so that if everybody's good, then I can be good.
Hmm.
That was exhausting though. But yeah, I guess like, I guess our growth journey, our ascension process is very much a personal thing. It's an internal thing, and not everybody's meant to do it. I think that as time has gone on, more and more people are. There
Hmm.
was less 10 years ago than there are today, and more people are going through this process.
Hmm.
But not everybody that's on Earth right now is meant to go through that.
Right.
So I've really learned over the years that we all have our soul has its own journey. Some of us are here to experience the 3D and help and do that and live the human experience, and then others are like me and you are like, let's go. I'm gonna go to the depths. I'm gonna go as far as I can in this life, like because I'm
Hard and
here.
fast. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think part of it though is because there could be some underlying loneliness, because you start shifting and then you have more depth that you can go into in a conversation.
Hmm.
There's than some other people around you sometimes, where you see the world differently as time goes on. You see things for what they are. Um, and but as you open up, you start finding the people you're meant to meet as well. I still have friends from that I've had since kindergarten that I'm still really close with, and
Yeah.
it's not. I'm not saying like everything's gone, but there's just new people that come in, like soul tribe, soul family that you
Hmm.
find that can then oftentimes just from opening up, these people come in, these mirrors that give you that validation, and you learn together, you grow together, um, and and then that's really the beautiful thing that happens. And for me, I just had, I think over time, like compassion really kept growing as my heart opened up more,
Hmm.
and just seeing with love, the world around me, like seeing everything as sacred and divine, and whatever state it's in, seeing that, either everything is sacred and divine or nothing is. And so just
Yes.
the more I've sat in that, it just made life easier.
Hmm. No, I get that. And a lot of people that are going through this phase that they're going through, they often have similar checkpoints that they go through. And but nobody's journey is the same. Like your journey's not been the same, my journey's not been the same. And so here at Spiriway, what we're doing is we're giving you the checkpoints. Like these are probably the checkpoints you're going to go through. We're not telling you how to go through the checkpoints. We're just giving you the information of what the checkpoints are, and that's really helpful. So, what information would you have for people about that are going through? They're not. There, a lot of people around them are not going through the awakening that they're going through. How do you help those people? What would you tell them?
I would say live and trust your truth. Learning how to like sit and just have that live through you,
Hmm.
because there are going to be shifts in your views. There's things that are going to like change that were possibly learned from parents, society, whatever. And so people will maybe be triggered by that. You might notice people get a little anxious, or some people might push back. but I've learned that if something's true, I don't need to like convert anybody. I don't need to, there's no argument I need to win. I can just live my truth and have it be there. And um, so I guess be comfortable being different. I guess being an Aquarius, I'm like, yeah, let's be weird and different. So for me, it might be a little different than some others. Um, but you know, we keep going into trust and faith and having trust in that, you know, these things that have shifted are, if they feel good, you know, that I think that's always been a good indicator for me. You know, when things shift and I feel peace, I'm like, oh my gosh, it
Right.
took me a while to cultivate that.
Yeah.
And it might take somebody on this step process a little bit of time too. But for me, it's just like you just start noticing, like, okay, wow, I was really present for part of my day. I was really at peace for part of my day. And then it keeps growing as time goes on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. See, what one little thing that they can do would you give them for anyone that's watching this that could just start that? Because you said peace, but how do they get to that point? Because it's not just a like, it's there. You know, there's a lot, especially when you're in trauma and you're like you're going through the first part of this awakening. A lot of it is very tough, and a lot of it is very hard on the emotional centers, for lack of a better way to say that.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
Yeah, for me, I guess I'd say there's multiple things how I would answer that is number one is no matter how our childhood had went, there were times where we had peaceful, joyful experiences. And what was that? You know, for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was like anytime I went to the beach with a book was a great day.
Right.
So how can I give myself those times now? You know, when I'm feeling off and it's summer here, I'm in Michigan, so it's not part of the year I don't have that luxury.
Right.
Can I go there and experience that? For me, there are practices that I just started trying. Meditation was so hard for me to start. Like sitting still, just breathing was really hard. But it was something that I knew would help me.
Yes.
So I found that guided meditations helped me. Um, Walking in nature always brings me down wherever I'm at. Even today, I have days where I'm like, oh, I need to put my bare feet on the earth. I need to go walk and touch a tree. And, you know, some people it's dance. Like, how can I move my body? How can I move some stagnation? How can I maybe do some yoga? Like, there's all these different things that we can try. So I would say try things. You know, what brought me to my darkest point was the patterns of being me. How can we slowly interrupt these patterns? Trying something different.
Wow, I love that. The patterns of being me. That's an amazing quote there. Wow. Well, thank you, Chris. We appreciate you on the Spiriway Chronicles podcast. Is there any information anything you're getting called to tell people that at the end of it that you want to say before we head out?
Yeah, I guess what I'm really feeling and hearing is you're not alone. You are supported. And, you know, we have on this app articles and support and stories about people who've gone through it and are continuing to, this awakening journey is a continuation. It's always going, it's unraveling. And it unravels, you know, based on the amount of, you know, time that we show up for it, you know. And so, um, you know, even if it feels like as a person, there's not a lot of people around me I can talk to about this. You have a higher self, you have guides, you have support, you have ancestors, you have so much here now to support you. And I don't think there's ever been a time in human history where there's been so much support available,
Right.
and so much ability to connect through distance. So a lot of it's used right now to create separation, but a lot of it can be used to create connection. And I would just, my other quote is like, for most people, the longest journey of their life is from here to here, from the brain to the heart.
For sure.
And so as we learn to drop out of thought, connect to our breath, connect to our heart, this part of us that's 5,000 times bigger than our brain energetically, the easier things get. The more we're connected to our intuition, the more we're connected to our gifts, the more we're connected to each other, to source. And it's available to all of us. We all have a heart, or we wouldn't be here.
For sure, sir.
So I think I'll leave it at that. But thank you so much for having me on here.
Thank you, Chris.